Come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base hit. Justice has scored a tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is. Goodbye. Big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Bracket throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them with my faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings long drive left field. If it stays there, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series.
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie. There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we haven't heard.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Yes, it's been back. Home run.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
Well, I guess that means he was talking about me. So here we are. Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. I am Dan Scott. Still empty. He is gone for this week anyway. That is normally where Forrest Stulting is sitting. Hope that everything is going well with you and that your morning's off to a good start. If it is, our goal is to try not to mess it up. If it's not, maybe we'll give you a little bit of a lift. And the ultimate goal here is by the time we're all said and done, maybe we'll learn something we did not know. And for some of us, that is easier than it is for others. I got a good show lined up for you today. Billy Davis will be here in the 10:25 segment. It's always a big week for him, the former Clemson Tiger standout, and of course on the 81 national championship game. It's rivalry weekend all across college football, and that includes Clemson and South Carolina. So I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on the rivalry and other things pertaining to football and maybe a little bit to life as well. Also, we'll be obviously continuing to focus in on Furman-Elon coming up this weekend. We'll talk some about the Paladins' loss at Duke last night and see what else we can get into as we move forward. But just very, very happy to have you with us here tomorrow. And you are, I hope, going to be in for a treat tomorrow. It's going to entertain me, whether it entertains anybody else or not. But back in the old days of the radio show, when I was on the air in Clemson, we developed what became a tradition that ran for, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe longer than that. It all comes together after a while. But it started with Cobb Oxford and I just outside the station one Tuesday, I think it was before Thanksgiving, deciding to deep fry a turkey while we were on the air. Well, that led to going over to the Bilo in Clemson for a number of years, deep frying turkeys throughout the course of the show and giving away deep fried turkey sandwiches in exchange for people coming in and bringing food, canned food, or going into the grocery store and buying canned food and bringing it out to us that we then took to the local food bank over there. And encapsulated in all of this, every year we played audio clips from what has to be one of the top 5 funniest sitcom episodes in the history of television. And that is from the first season of WKRP in Cincinnati, Turkeys Away, or as it's known, the Great Turkey Drop. And that became a tradition. And even to this day, and I've been, this January will be 6 years since I've worked over there. Even to this day, when we get to this week, people start pulling that clip off of YouTube and sending it to me, putting it on my timeline on Facebook, and saying, every time I see this, Dan, I think about you. And I hope that they also think about all the food that we were able to donate to the food bank and the greater good that was involved. But this was always fun. This was always incredibly fun. So I'm playing with this system that we've got, this program that, going back, it's been about 2 months, I guess, that we stumbled across thanks to my buddy Scott Cole. And it allows us to stream the video simultaneously to multiple platforms. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Periscope, which is Twitter's live video arm. And it's also on my YouTube page. It streams live on all 3 of those platforms. Well, as I'm learning more about this, and I'm pretty good with technology, but I'm also one of those guys that after so often or so long, I have to just take it and I'm at the age now where you put too much information in this ear, something that I know has to come out this side. It has to vacate. So I get, I do so much. I get to where I'm functional on it, kind of doing everything here by myself. So, kind of the rudimentary elements of it, I'm cool with. You know, we got the nice little graphics for the Atlanta Bread Company that we did, and today's show coming up, and all of that good stuff. But in having some time yesterday afternoon, I was searching and playing around with this thing, and I had been talking to some other people about some things I'd like to do on the show, and one of the questions came up about, well, could you video record interviews and play them back? I said, well, I could do it and play the audio, but I couldn't play the video. Well, it turns out, as I found out yesterday, I was wrong, which, you know, my wife will tell you happens way too frequently. But it turns out that you can play video. So, in other words, if I go do, say, an interview after a basketball game with one of the players or with Bob Ritchie or something like that, I can email that to myself or put it up on YouTube, and then through this system, I can actually pull that in and play it, and you'll be able to see it on the screen as well as obviously hear it. So all these times we've been playing, for instance, Clay Hendricks after games or back before the season started, the post-practice reports, you know, had I known what I was doing, you could have been seeing the coach as well as hearing the coach. So moving forward, that's another element we're going to be able to add, which I think is going to be something of a game changer for us, to be able to get those pre-recorded video segments actually on the screen for you to see as well as hear. Why am I telling you all this? Well, because tomorrow at the end of the program, not only will you hear the funniest part of WKRP's Turkeys Away episode, but you're going to see it. I'm going to play the clip, and you're going to see the entire thing and really get to enjoy it in its entire context. And I think you're really going to love it if you haven't seen it, and I can't imagine that you haven't. It is an absolute classic. Absolute classic. I've seen it 1,000 times. I laugh every time I see it. From the very, very beginning of Les Nessman at the Pinedale Shopping Mall to Arthur Carlson walking in or walking back out of his office at the very end of the program and delivering one of the classic lines in all of sitcom history. So you'll be able to not only hear it tomorrow, you'll be able to see it. And then moving forward, as I said, I'm really excited about this because I think it's really going to help us in a lot of ways be able to actually play interviews, video interviews that we can pre-record. And it's going to allow me to get a lot more people on the show as well. So I'm really excited about it. It's 10:08. Let's step aside for a break, and then we'll come back and get into some Furman stuff headlong. First of all, though, a reminder again about the Atlanta Bread Company. Had breakfast there this morning, as I do 3-4 times a week, and always enjoy it. Always have a good time. The people there are fantastic. You know that. I want to remind you again that 1 week from today, the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, they will be closed because they've got some upgrades and some internal construction stuff going on, and they're going to get it all knocked out in one day. But as I have also told you, a source that will remain unnamed said that, if people show up, we'll probably have some coffee up front and maybe bake some cookies for them. And if because they're trying to get the message out, they're going to be closed, but everybody won't get it. So if people show up at the door, we're going to offer them a free cup of coffee and maybe some cookies and, try to explain to them what's going on and thank them for their patience. So that's 1 week from today that they'll be closed next Tuesday. Meantime, enjoy everything they have to offer. Great menu, great people. It's the Atlanta Bread Company. Cherrydale Plaza here in Greenville, just down the street from campus. And please, I say this all the time, but it's vitally important with all of our sponsors. You tell them that you heard about them here on the show. All right, we'll go to break and we'll come back and get headlong into things here on this edition of the Dan Scott Show. Do not go away.
Hey, Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingles, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingles, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman-Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back. It's Tuesday edition of the program. I'm Dan Scott. Forrest Stulting is elsewhere doing other things on this Thanksgiving week. Good to have you along with us. Billy Davis coming up at 10:25. Forgot to mention, tomorrow is Dave Glenn, ACC Sports.com, and all things Atlantic Coast Conference. He'll be with us, as always, at 10:25. And then in the 10:45 segment, I'm kind of excited about this, and I think you football fans will be as well. Ken Lamondola, the linebackers coach here at Furman, is going to come up and spend the final segment of the show with us tomorrow. He, of course, is the guy who was charged beginning in week 4, I guess, at Colgate with taking the two kids at the inside linebacker spots and molding them into, well, what they have become. Really, really good football players. Raynard Ellis and Elijah McCoy. And also, Chris Washington, one of the outside backers who did not have a single tackle last year and has had such a great season this year. Joe Farrar, I mean, it just goes on and on. So Ken Lamondola is going to be with us here tomorrow to talk more about coaching those linebackers and the challenge that he had, especially after injuries took out Dylan Woodruff in week 1, who was kind of going to be the glue of that linebacker core, and all the injuries they suffered there, A.K. Olasanya, and on and on. So the two rookies stepped in, did a fantastic job, are doing a fantastic job, and Ken Lamondola is going to be here to talk about all of that tomorrow. Last night, the Paladins basketball team played at Duke and lost by a 92-63 score. It was close for the first 10-12 minutes of the first half, and then Duke finished the first half with a 34-12 run, took a 49-31 halftime lead, and basically never looked back. This is part of the PK80 Phil Knight Invitational that's being played in a number of venues all around the country. Actually, the Paladins led early 13-8, led 16-15 with under 12 minutes to play before Duke went off on a 14-2 run that gave them control. and really never looked back. They shot 61% from the floor and outscored Furman 64-28 in the paint. The size differential obviously really came into play there. Got to love John Davis III. And we have talked about this kid so many times over the course of his career. There's a guy, number one, generally he's the smallest guy on the floor, but he is also most often the most fearless guy on the floor. And I can't tell you over the last couple of years especially how many times that this young man, when the team was in one of those offensive funks where they weren't scoring or when things maybe were going wrong, that it's John Davis that seems to find a way to make the tough shot or to make a play that starts the momentum going back in the right direction. And he played really, really well against a much bigger and faster Duke team last night. 15 points, 6 of 13 shooting, and 6 assists. Matt Rafferty, 11 points, 6 boards. Devin Sibley also got into double figures with 10 points. But, you shoot 39% from the field and 9 of 29 from 3. That's going to be a tough night to overcome against anybody, especially the team widely considered to be the best in all the country in the Duke Blue Devils. So now it is back to the road after Thanksgiving. Friday in Nashville against New Hampshire at Nashville's Municipal Auditorium, 1 o'clock Eastern. We will have the pregame beginning at 12:30 Eastern on the Furman IMG Sports Network. And then also we will be bringing you the game on Saturday as well, but that will be internet only because I'll be back doing playoff football, and then Tom Van Hoy will be staying behind and doing the basketball game. In fact, as I just happened to look down at my text, I had sent Tom Van Hoy a message a little earlier, and I believe that we're able to get him on the fly. This is what's called no notice radio. I would say live radio, or in this case, video at its best, but we all know that this ain't its best. But Tom Van Hoy is with us. He and Bryant Lambert had the call from Cameron Indoor last night. How you doing, man?
Good. We got back about 3:15, so now I'm glad to be on this morning with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? If you're like me, lack of sleep somehow sometimes makes for better programming. And I don't know.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. Sometimes it's a little bit more funny because you say stuff maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, no kidding. Entertaining trip, I guess, for you and Bryant, Butler, and then Duke. Let's start with last night. First 10 minutes or so of that ball game, Paladins looked pretty good, but then Duke's size, speed, all that stuff kind of kicked in, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and it was a little bit reminiscent of the Butler game against Butler, 10 out of 14 to begin things, and then really cooled 0-9 to finish off the first half, a 16-3 run by the Bulldogs then, and they led 41-29 at half, and Furman got within 10 a couple times second half and a little bit bigger, stronger inside, and lost that game 82-65. And, I talked with Coach Ritchie on the pregame show, and, said, hey, you always want to get off to a good start, but you know what? You got to play after that as well. And I tell you, it's one of those things, particularly at Duke, and you've been up there at Cameron Indoor, they can get on you. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Here's Furman stretching to begin things. Trent Caldwell's out there, and here are the students. They know they counted it out. It was kind of a cool thing to do. So you really worry and wonder about how it's going to begin, and you don't want to get buried early, so to speak. And I'll tell you, Furman came out, hit 5 of 6, and eventually led by 5, 13-8 after a basket by Jalen Williams. But that quickly within, I think Jordan Caskey told us 34 seconds, it was a 7-0 run by Duke to go up by 1. And then, Furman, to their credit, came back and retook the lead. And then Duke kind of took control late in the first half. kind of reminiscing again, like I said a moment ago, started missing shots. Had some really pretty good looking shots. You would think, open shots anyway, that maybe contested and taken off balance, kind of wild shots. It really wasn't like that. It just kind of bounded out of there, and it was 40, down 49, 31 at half, and there were 2 or 3 wide open threes that if they'd gone in, and again they didn't, but as it turned out, it was just bigger, stronger, faster, so to speak. And I thought Furman hung in there, and even though the scores and not going to be, I think, indicative of the way they played, I think the folks had to be pretty proud of the way they hung in there against a pretty good basketball team, the number 1 team in the country, 425 straight sellouts, 136 straight wins against non-conference teams there. It's just tough to win in Cameron Indoor.
I was talking right before you texted me back, and you and I saw this last year on the road all during the season, non-conference and in conference play as well. When this team struggles offensively or when they need something to provide a spark for them, more often than not, it seems that the guy who gives it to them is John Davis III. And of all the issues last night, you look at the way he played, he was by far the most consistent performer. And he's just a tough little guy. A lot of times the smallest guy on the floor, but, man, he's fearless.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's a type of guy that you need to handle the ball under the kind of pressure that Duke was going to present. And Furman only turns it over 13 times in the ball game. And you look out there, and as we went through the broadcast, you run down the list of players that Duke, starting the 4 freshmen and Grayson Allen, the 4 freshmen were the top players in Rivals.com from their position. Marvin Bagley III, the best big man inside, reclassified, in fact. And Wendell Carter at 6'10" was the number 1 power forward. You had Gary Trent Jr., the number 1 shooting guard, and then you had Trayvon Duval, who, by the way, his first 2 games had like 20 assists and 1 turnover, and all of a sudden you got number 1 Trayvon Duval matched up against number 1 John Davis, and John Davis, the 5'11" senior out of Eastwood, Ohio. I thought he hung in there and held his own and didn't kind of fold under the pressure, because there were some matchup issues, as you knew there were going to be in this one. But yeah, he hit some shots. I mean, these were tough shots in traffic, on the move, some floaters with more like rainbows. And, he ended up with 15 points and 6 assists in this game in 32 minutes and turned it over only 2 times.
Yeah, like I say, you just marvel at the way the kid plays. I mean, Devin Sibley gets the headlines, as he should. I mean, it's the Southern Conference reigning Player of the Year and preseason pick for Player of the Year going into the season. And, we know about Daniel Fowler and what he brings and all the other pieces and elements of this puzzle. But when it comes to toughness and grit and all of those things, I just call him the glue guy. I think John Davis III is the glue guy for this team. And I just found it, again, interesting that with everything going on, he was the one who had the best performance overall last night for the Paladins. Tom Van Hoy joining us here on the show as we do a little basketball weekend recap. He and Bryant Lambert had the calls of the Butler and Duke games from 2 fairly historic arenas, Cameron Indoor last night, and back on Saturday, Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis for the Butler game. What was it like for you guys being in those venues?
Well, I've never been in either one of them. I had been up and broadcast from Assembly Hall at Indiana and been in South Bend at Notre Dame. And, we all know Hoosiers. You're a basketball aficionado and all that. And it was really cool to see. You get inside, and it does appear, and it is, built in 1928, an historic venue. It was more wide open, airport hangar, National Guard type feeling there. You're down on the floor, and tell you, it seats 9,100. They had about 8,000 in there. Great basketball fans, and got behind their team. It was, and you got to walk. I mean, you walk around a mall, but you can 40 some rows, couple different levels. You're way up top, and you can walk around there. And it was just a very neat atmosphere to be able to broadcast from, and for the young men of Furman to play in that one. But it was really a wide open, big facility. And then when you've been to Cameron as well, you get there, and I mean, it's like, it kind of pops out of, no, I wouldn't say it pops out of nowhere, but you've got the now I wanted to ask you this question from a baseball standpoint. You haven't broadcast from the one on campus, have you, or is it always at the Durham Bulls?
Oh, no, I've broadcast from the one on campus.
Okay.
Yeah, but before they had the little trailer-like press box that they have, we sat basically at a table, either right behind home plate, or maybe we put it up in the stands a couple of places. And then when that was when I was at Clemson, and then we played at Furman, played there. Oh gosh, I guess maybe 3 years ago. And Tom, I swear they've got this little trailer, and you've got a visiting radio quote unquote booth that is more like a closet. That if you and I were in it, we'd have to stand in the I formation to broadcast out of it.
We've done it before in high school football.
Yeah, exactly. So I told Bryant the other day when I had him on that the only regret that I have is you guys didn't get the full Cameron experience by broadcasting from the Crow's Nest and see what a setup that was.
Yeah, that was it. I didn't realize the fact that as you were saying, I think Brian did too, that when you got up there, they pulled the ladder up.
Pulled the ladder up, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me tell you, if something goes wrong there, but the last thing they're going to think of is, hey, give those guys a ladder. We're getting the heck out of here. And ironically, when we got there, the Furman bus pulls in, and it's about 5:30, an hour and a half before, and the crowds are already milling around out front of Cameron Indoor, and we stood up, and they said, sit down, boys. Their fire alarms are going off here. Okay. So we sat on the bus another 15, 20 minutes. That's why the game was moved back a little bit. But, you've been there, and it is, they cordon it off. All those people there and in front of the doors that open to let them in, I don't know, an hour or so before. So they cordon that off, and they make a little tunnel there, so to speak, for you, and hold people back so you can, walk through, and, and they are knowledgeable fans. I heard one guy, he looked at me, and he goes, I know that guy doesn't play. And I go, well, yeah, you're right. So it was kind of fun in that regard. We were way at the top, but you know what? That's kind of the way it is. I tell you, I know they spent a lot of money and renovating it, and a lot of it around there is pretty nice. But it does have, once you get in there, it does have that kind of that old feel to it. The seats are very narrow, and I kind of was trying to look around. I walked all the way around it and got up top, and there are some seats and there's some overhang that if you sat there, you can't really see the court at all. It's kind of like Indiana at Assembly Hall, where they have a balcony that comes out, and if you have a certain seat there, you can see the ball go up. You may have to wait for it to come down, and then you see I think they have to stand up, Dan, because there is absolutely no room between one row and the next, and I think I said on the air, it kind of operationally defines the intimate atmosphere, but it was a heck of an atmosphere for college basketball. I think I just said 425 straight sellouts since 1990 in Boston College. So tremendous home court advantage. Figured that they'd come out, talking about Duke, would come out and play well. Had won by 17, but didn't think they played all that well against Texas Southern, and then and had somewhat of a distraction because of attending a funeral the day before. Jeff Capel's father had passed away, and en masse the team went to the funeral the day before, when they had beaten Michigan State in Chicago, 88-81, as part of the Champions Classic. They did that, only getting 10 minutes from Marvin Bagley III, who he's the real deal. Saw him shoot one up, and he missed it, and you don't see it a lot to a certain extent. He gets his own rebound above the rim and dunks it. He only played 10 minutes against Michigan State, and that's when Grayson Allen had 37. In this one, Allen ends up in the ball game with, 7 or so as we check it here, And, 5 actually. Had the one dunk on a breakaway, just 1 of 4 from three-point range. I guess been banged up a little bit and hadn't practiced very much. But, I mean, they're good. I mean, you have 4 freshmen and a senior, and sometimes when you get that collective group of youngsters, maybe it doesn't work all that well, particularly when they're all used to being the main person. But they got a chance. They're pretty good.
Well, listen, thanks again to you and Bryant for taking care of that while we were wrapped up in football. And then you and I will be doing the Friday game in Nashville this week, and then you'll be doing solo on Saturday. I say solo, working with Jordan Caskey on Saturday while I'm up in Elon doing football again. But thanks for the update. Enjoyed it, and we will look forward to hanging out this weekend.
Yeah, anytime. It was fun, and it was a great trip for these young men. And didn't win any of those ball games, and you got some things out of it, I think, as they go down the stretch. And I think with a senior-dominated team that Furman has, if they'd been younger players, I think maybe it might have made a little bit of difference. But, they understood the situation. Now, they're going to – and as you call the game, and I'll be with you in Nashville on Friday. This is a New Hampshire team that took Florida, down to the wire the other night. A Northeastern team that people may not know a whole lot about. So they're going to be 2 good tests as well coming up. And then the folks, Paladin Faithful, will have you guys back for 5 consecutive at home. So, even though lost a couple of them, they were very tough basketball teams that will prepare you later on in the Southern Conference.
Thomas, we'll talk to you this weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, buddy.
All right. You too. See you, Dan.
All right. That is Tom Van Hoy, who did the game with us, the game with Bryant Lambert last night from Duke. We'll take a break and come back, and Billy Davis will join us on the other side as the Dan Scott Show continues right after this.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show. right, we are back at it after the break. Thanks to Tom Van Hoy for catching us up on the Furman-Duke game last night. He and Bryant Lambert calling that in my stead. I'll be back behind the mic for basketball on Friday afternoon in Nashville for the game against New Hampshire with Tom, and then Tom will stay for Saturday's game, which will be internet only against Northeastern, while I'm back doing football against Elon in the first round of the FCS playoffs. Playoffs? That almost sounded like Jim Mora, didn't it? Joining us, as he does every week when his schedule allows, is a guy who knows something about postseason football and winning championships and doing all the other things that the Billy Davises of the world do, and that's Billy Davis joining us on the show. How you doing, man?
Great, Dan. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. A lot of traveling here of late, but we are here.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Hanging out.
Believe me. Yeah, like the Globetrotter in all of us, yes.
In any event, how are things going? How are things going with you? Thanksgiving coming up. Going to be able to spend some time with family?
Yep, I'm going to be at home for the next 2 days. Enjoy my mom and dad coming up to Lovettsville for Thanksgiving dinner, celebrate with them, and then I'll be off to Albuquerque and Denver and back to Charlotte for Operation Christmas Child.
You know, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. You'd be going to those places because I don't know how many people are aware. I hope a lot of them are. But Sirius XM Radio right now has a limited run Billy Graham channel, which is on channel 145. And it was supposed to end this past Friday. They've extended it through this weekend, and there's some hope that maybe it'll be so popular that they'll make it a permanent part of their lineup. But some of the messages that they're playing from Franklin Graham's father during this limited run have been some very popular and powerful messages from the cities of Albuquerque and Denver. So it's just kind of interesting that you're heading there with Franklin Graham, as Sirius XM is kind of revisiting those venues with his father going back 30, 35 years ago, 40 years ago.
Well, that's neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to mention that to the folks I'm working with.
Yeah, do that. Rivalry week all across the landscape of the FBS world in college football. We get the Ohio State and Michigans. We get Auburn, Alabama. We get all of the great rivalries, at least most of them. Some of them were played earlier in the season. And Clemson and South Carolina is in there. I saw something today that said that this rivalry, which is more of a regional rivalry, it's not quite on the national level as, say, Ohio State and Michigan. And I saw something written today, Billy, that said it will not get there until it has championship ramifications for both teams in the same year. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. It's of course, in South Carolina, the thing's huge, and I didn't realize it growing up in Northern Virginia, the intensity of the rivalry until I went to Clemson, and then I got it full force for 4 years. But that's essentially the truth. I can say that as a Clemson guy and playing in the rivalry game and coaching in the rivalry game and watching the rivalry game and living it for the past 37 years, that it does not, I say it's more of a regional rivalry, more like Mississippi State and Mississippi or something along those lines, as opposed to Ohio State, Michigan, or Notre Dame, USC, or an Alabama, Auburn, because the fact of the matter, or even a Florida State, Florida, the fact of the matter is those other programs are usually in and out of the top 10 or top 5. And I think from a historical perspective, that's the truth. I'm not to disparage Clemson or South Carolina, but the fact of the matter is that obviously Clemson has been much more in the national stage over the course of the past decades than South Carolina has, and so I think that's absolutely the truth. So I agree with that. It is much more of a regional rivalry as opposed to like you said, Ohio State, Michigan.
All right. Well, let me ask you the tough question then. In your heart of hearts, as a Clemson guy, national championship team in '81, and all of those things that you went through in this rivalry and all the things that you still go through in this rivalry. Do you want it to get to that point, or do you want it to stay as it is, and that's with Clemson, the more elevated of the two teams in the minds of most people? Because if to get where they're talking about, that means South Carolina has to elevate to the Clemson level. I have a hard time believing that a lot of Clemson fans would like to see that.
That's obviously rhetorical. You know the answer to that, Dan. Of course not. I do not want South Carolina to be there. Of course not. I would be very happy if South Carolina went 0-12 every year. That would not hurt my feelings at all, and I mean that in all sincerity. So, because that's exactly how I feel, and I believe most Clemson fans feel that way as well. And the fact of the matter was, I guarantee you, most South Carolina fans that I know, that I played against, that I know would love the fact if Clemson went 0-12 every year. Mm-hmm. That couldn't be further from, oh yeah, I'd really like South Carolina to be 11-1 when we play, because no, you don't. You want if you really have a rival, you don't want them to be good. You want them to be downtrodden. You want them to be suffering, because that's your rival. It's just the way it is. If it really means a lot to you, I mean, that's the way I look at it. I'd rather have them coming in dragging on one leg than being 11-1 and playing. For instance, next weekend, Clemson plays Miami. Miami is more than likely to be undefeated. Mm-hmm. So they're going to come in with a lot of confidence and a lot of knowing what they can do, as opposed. That's just me. And so I try to be as honest as possible. So no, I'd rather just keep it as a nice regional rivalry with Clemson dominating over the course of time. When I was at Clemson, we were 4-0 against South Carolina, and the fact of the matter was, it wasn't even the biggest game on our schedule. Biggest game on our schedule in the early 80s was Georgia, because that had national implications. Georgia won it in 80. We won it in 81. Georgia won the SEC again in 82, and I think in 83. So they were a national power, and so were we. That had national implications, where when we played South Carolina, it really didn't.
Well, I mean, why do you think I ask you these questions? Because I know that you're going to say what's on your mind. I mean, I was born at night, but not last night. Come on, man. Give me a little bit of credit here.
Yeah, that's how we make our hay. Yeah, I tell you just like it is. Because like I said, I'm not coaching. I'm not playing. I don't bet on the games. I just watch them. And like I said, those kids that wear orange and white and regalia, they're sons and brothers to me, blood brothers. So I take it very seriously. So that's.
As a college football fan, do you like, discounting Clemson, South Carolina from the picture for a moment? Do you get into rivalry weekend at all? I mean, the Auburn and Alabama matchup, or as Drew Tibbs said, Alabama Auburn matchup. I have to put Alabama first. Is one that could have some major implications, with Auburn trying to, even with 2 losses, force their way up the ladder, and Alabama with the injuries at linebacker still hanging on undefeated. Ohio State, Michigan, one of the greatest rivalries in the country, and on down the line. Do you love all of these things in college football?
Absolutely, just like you do. And I think I grew up I loved college football growing up, but where I grew up in Northern Virginia, we've had this discussion before, the Washington Redskins were the toast of the town, and that's what people talked about. But I grew up, interestingly enough, a huge college football fan back in the days of Oklahoma and Nebraska, with Barry Switzer and Johnny Rodgers playing for Nebraska, and all those great rivalries, the Notre Dame USC games, and on a national level. Because back when you and I were growing up, there were only a few big games on Saturdays, and it was the the usual list of suspects. Mm-hmm. Texas and Oklahoma, going down the line, Ohio State, Michigan, those were the games. So yeah, I think if you're a real college football fan, and I've heard it said too, not that I necessarily agree with it or not, but I think people that are college football fans usually are a little bit more knowledgeable about football, the game itself, than NFL fans. I think a lot of people that watch the NFL just watch it because that's the thing to talk about on Mondays, and it's like not so much now with all the controversy, but it's just kind of like the in thing to talk about. Whereas people that are really into college football, really into college basketball love the sport for what it is, and they have a tendency to be a little bit more knowledgeable of what's going on in the sport. So yeah, I do enjoy rivalry Saturday, but I can tell you the truth, it's always a lot of angst for the Clemson South Carolina game. It's one of those games where it's a rivalry game, and regardless of who is the better team, it could go either way very easily, depending on momentum and where you're playing the game at. So,
well, if you have the opportunity, and again, knowing what your schedule is, sometimes that's iffy, but if you have the opportunity in a scenario like this weekend, for instance, Clemson South Carolina is 7:30, so you've got all day. Which of the rivalry games do you like to watch? Which do you have a favorite outside of Clemson, South Carolina?
well, I like Auburn, Alabama, obviously, but that's on an 8 o'clock. I'm going to be in Albuquerque anyway, working, so I'm not going to be able to watch either one of the games.
Well, I said if.
Yeah, Auburn, Alabama, sure. I like Ohio State, Michigan, sure. I even like I said, I like to watch the Egg Bowl. I'd like to watch Mississippi State and Mississippi play. Usually that's on Thanksgiving. I really love Texas A&M and Texas back when they used to play. They don't play anymore, I don't believe. But that was a great game to watch. Those are probably my favorites. Back when, and I don't know if they still play anymore or not. The old backyard brawl was a big hit in West Virginia.
Yeah, no, that unfortunately they don't.
That was always a great game to watch.
I think there are a couple of games coming up in that series. They've contracted again, but when the conference moves were made, Pitt coming to the ACC, West Virginia going to the Big 12, unfortunately that rivalry had to be put on hold, which was a shame.
Nasty.
Yeah,
just plain nasty.
I mean, the schools,
they really got after it.
It's kind of like Clemson and Georgia. The two towns are about 90 miles apart. Morgantown and Pittsburgh, maybe a little longer, but not much. And so basically, I mean, that's why they call it the backyard brawl, because they're right there. So I hated to see that one come to an end.
No, and I think I probably talked one time too about this, but the Pitt Cal game, which that's a regional rivalry, but that's a big game out west at the Pac-12, and I don't know if I'd mentioned my connection to that game or not. I think I might have.
Which game now?
The Stanford
and Cal.
Stanford Cal, yeah. And that's arguably the greatest, the most famous play in college football history.
Right.
Where they kick off and they do the multiple laterals, and this guy named Kevin Moen scores a touchdown for Cal to win the game on the last play.
The band is on the field. Yeah.
Correct. And I don't know if I talked this, but it bears repeating since it's rivalry week that. So when I'm finished with my football career at Clemson and I sign as a free agent with the Denver Broncos, so I go out to minicamp, and they have a rookie minicamp before the vets show up. So there's about, between the draft picks and the undrafted free agents, there's probably about 35 of us. So we have a meeting the night before that we start minicamp, and so we get up and introduce ourselves, and then we sit down to have a meal, and I'm sitting next to this guy, and his name's Kevin Moen, and I go, hey, you're the guy that you got to score the touchdown for Cal, right? He goes, yeah. So I started laughing. I said, you're not going to believe this, but I said, the guy that kicked off, first of all, his name is Mark Harmon. He was Stanford's kicker. He ended up kicking the field goal to go ahead for Stanford, and then ended up kicking the ball off, which eventually was returned by Kevin Moen for a touchdown.
Right.
I actually played in high school with Mark Harmon. I held for extra points and field goals for Mark in high school. I said, so it was a really small world. That was my connection to the arguably the most famous play in college football. Was I held for the guy in high school that kicked off, and then I was in mini camp and training camp with Kevin.
The 6 degrees of Stanford Cal.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty small world when you get down to that level. So and then the rivalry week as well. I was talking about Clemson and South Carolina. I was on the first Clemson team in 1980, where we were 5-5, and we were playing a ranked South Carolina team with George Rogers, and we were the first Clemson team to break out the orange pants. in that game against South Carolina, which we won 27-6. So that was also, and that was 37 years ago. But the Orange Pants have taken on a different meaning now. Coach Sweeney, credit to him, he only breaks it out for championship games. So obviously, Saturday being the South Carolina State Championship, Clemson will wear their orange breeches in Williams-Brice on Saturday night. I'm sure to believe.
We are chatting with Billy Davis as we try to every week when his schedule allows to talk a little football, a little life, all the things that you get from former college football standout and a retired U.S. Secret Service agent. Let me ask you something here, and this I guess is somewhat rhetorical, somewhat just an opinion. But I know you love this game. I know you cherished your time at Clemson. I know you cherished the relationships that you made in that locker room for 4 years that still exist to this day. Has the big business that college football has turned into robbed you in any way, shape, or form of your love of the game?
No, not at all. No, because it still boils down to a bunch of kids out there playing the game they love. And it gives you, and I still see it for what it is. It gives a lot of young men an opportunity to not only live out their dreams of playing at a Clemson or a South Carolina or a Furman or a Florida State, or you pick whatever school, but it also gives them an opportunity to get an education that more than likely they wouldn't have been able to receive if they weren't a gifted athlete. And I think a lot of people lose that sight of that. So yeah, it is a big business. It's amazing how much these coaches make. Coach Sweeney's making over $8 million a year. I believe he's worth every penny of it. But it is a big business. Just like the NFL is a big business, and just like college basketball is a big business. But it's also a big business to be able to pay for people like my daughter, who's an elite swimmer, to go to school and be on scholarship too. Because I can assure you the fact that nobody's paying a whole lot of money to sit and watch a swim meet. But they come and pack Williams-Brice and Death Valley on every Saturday to watch football games. So I still love it as much as I did when I was a little kid watching when I was 7 or 8 years old. I think a lot of people in this day and age can be a little jaded, and they think it's a big business. But I look at it, there's nothing better than being down on that field and being a part of something that's bigger than you when you watch those kids get out there and play, generation after generation of new kids coming in and wearing that Clemson uniform. I love it. I think it's great. It's one of the few things you can count on. College football, I tell people, Dan, it's different. I mean, God willing, this country is still together 100, 200 years from now, that they're still going to be playing football in Clemson and in South Carolina and in Notre Dame and in Morgantown, where, the franchise that I played with in the National Football League, I tell people I played for the Cardinals, and they go, I played in St. Louis, and they go, do you play for the Rams? They move. Look at the Oakland Raiders. They're going to Vegas. The Chargers have gone to San Diego, to L.A., to San Diego, to L.A. The Rams have gone from L.A. to St. Louis, from Brooklyn to L.A. to St. Louis and back to L.A. So the great thing about college football is, if everything stays like it should, those schools are going to be playing football for generations to come. I think that's the fun part about it, as opposed to the NFL, where it's just, the NFL, you're just a mercenary. You're just playing people. You're playing for the money, and that's, I think, the difference. That's what appealed for me for college football.
Very well said, my friend. Well, listen, you and the Davis family have a wonderful Thanksgiving up there in Northern Virginia, and I guess probably next week you're out, but maybe the week after, whenever you can get back with us. We look forward to talking with you again.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Dan, and thanks for having me on. Everybody have a blessed Thanksgiving and holiday season, and be safe and careful out there traveling around. And I'll let you know as soon as I get back up and running. We're going to be busy here. Like I tell people, when you work for an international Christian relief organization, your wheelhouse is between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Absolutely.
So we'll be very busy. Okay?
Well,
thanks, man.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
That's our friend Billy Davis. We'll take a break, come back, and set you up for tomorrow's show, including our Furman football staff-related guest who will be with us tomorrow. This is the Dan Scott Show, and we'll return in just a moment.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back. Just a couple of minutes before we wrap it up here. Our thanks to Billy Davis for joining us. Our thanks to Tom Van Hoy for joining us to give us a little bit of flavor from the Butler and Duke games basketball-wise. And, again, Tom and I will be in Nashville on Friday after Thanksgiving doing the New Hampshire matchup with Furman at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then he'll be hanging around to do the Northeastern game on Friday, internet only, while I'm back in Elon doing football in the FCS playoffs. To that end, please remember tomorrow is the final show of the week because of the Thanksgiving holiday and then the travel to Nashville. So we'll be doing as much as we can tomorrow to get everything wrapped up. On the show tomorrow, Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com, as always, at 10:25. And then at 10:45 here in studio, Ken Lamondola, the linebackers coach for Furman, will be here to spend some time with us and talk about coaching that position and especially grooming the two kids in the middle, Raynard Ellis and Elijah McCoy, and the challenge that was when they were both installed as starters by necessity in week 4 and how well they have performed. So Ken Lamondola will be here in studio with us tomorrow. And then after that, we'll probably hang the show over an extra 5 minutes or so to let you not only hear, but also see the classic scene that we do every Thanksgiving, no matter what platform we're on. This year we get to add the video to it. The Great Turkey Drop, or Turkeys Away episode. The main 6 minutes of hilarity from WKRP in Cincinnati. It's been a tradition on my shows for, well over a decade, and it will continue here tomorrow, Lord willing. Listen, have yourself a great Tuesday, and we will talk to you again tomorrow morning, same time and same place. Until then, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you, and so long, everybody.